Hello, my name is Diego Benitez, and this is my vlog number 2, where I need to interview someone who learned English as a second language and or experienced the ESL classroom here in the United States. I am interviewing my little sister, Valerie. She's 19 years old. She also goes to the University of Houston. So thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
Great. The first question I have for you is, what languages do you speak?
I speak English and Spanish.
Were you born speaking English or Spanish?
So I was born in Venezuela and I moved here when I was 2, but I learned to speak Spanish from being from Venezuela.
And why did you learn specifically English?
My family always said that I would speak English in school settings with friends, and then when I would come home, I would just learn to speak Spanish.
And how did you learn English?
I remember specifically in elementary school going into these classes where I would learn English. Specifically, I remember learning how to roll my R's.
Oh, roll your R's. Do you speak a language at home and a different one in public?
I do. I mostly speak Spanish at home and English outside of house.
Okay, this is a good one. What's the biggest positive consequence that knowing a foreign language has had on your life?
Well, last year I went to Mexico and I was able to communicate with family members that I haven't seen before or never even met, and it was great to speak to them in their language, which is Spanish, instead of being kind of an outsider and only speaking English.
Great. How was school like when you first came to the United States?
Since I was so young, I only moved here when I was 2. I don't remember it specifically, but I do know, over the years, it was kind of a challenge speaking English since I was still learning it.
And were you in any ESL programs, or was it just a general English classroom?
I'm not too sure. I think it was just a general speaking English classroom where, I would go in, teachers would kind of give me words to practice or sentences to practice, but I don't think it was an ESL.
What aspects of the classroom helped you overcome any difficulties you may have had?
I think teachers are the number one, greatest help that I can remember. I think they are very important in the classroom, giving positive reinforcement to the children and kind of being by their side along the way of their learning process.
Love that. Did you feel aware of your progress that you were making while you were learning English?
Not really. I think looking back at it, it just kind of happened. I think English, when I learned to speak English, it just over the years it got better.
Yeah. Are there any resources that you wish you had or you think that kids learning English now should have while they're learning?
That's a great question. I think
You can take a second to think about it. Oh, so are there any resources like assignments or ways that the teacher can help that you think would have helped you or that you think would help students today learn a new language?
Maybe assignments, or since over, children, I would assume giving them assignments that include games so it doesn't seem forced or you have to do this to get a grade. So I don't think assignments should be able to be based on a grade, but to actually help improve the student.
Yeah, so you're saying something like engaging,
Yes.
that connects to the student interests, so it doesn't feel like they're working, but making progress towards learning a new language.
Yes.
Do you think parents should play a role in the language acquisition in school?
I think so, but my parents, they only really speak to me in Spanish at home, so I think they themselves are trying to learn English as well as their own children, so it was kind of a challenge within the family itself, but my parents now do speak pretty good English, so I do communicate with them both in English and in Spanish.
Yeah, do you think teachers should maybe provide parents some resources so that they can continue the English learning at home?
I think that would be a great improvement for teachers to add in their classroom so it doesn't feel like only the student has to learn specific language, but also the family.
Yeah, in what way do you think the teacher can also honor the student's native language? Because sometimes they can feel like their language isn't good enough because they need to learn English.
That's a a great question. I think they can incorporate it by like trying to learn the language themselves, like maybe doing like a small activity for native speakers so they don't feel like left out in the entire process of trying to learn the language, but kind of having their own.
Yeah, so like including some activities that are in their native language as well, so they kind of feel that they're both valued. I like that.
That would be very important.
Well, Valerie, thank you so much for being part of my interview. You did fantastic.
Perfect. I loved it.
Thank you.